Thank you. Today I have the great honor of being a voice, like many people at this conference, for individuals who are experiencing homelessness, which is a group that is normally misunderstood and tossed to the side. And there are a few things that I would like all of you to leave my presentation with. First, a better understanding than you already have of the true face of homelessness. Second, a better understanding of trauma and how it relates to the individuals that you're working with. And last, that we can all make a change, and we are all making a change whenever we work together. There is a quote from The Shack, which is by William P. Young, that really resonates with me and my experience of homelessness. And I would like you to keep this in mind as I'm telling you my personal story. Pain has a way of clipping our wings so we cannot fly. When I was 5 years old, I was taken in by my father's mother, my grandmother. I was one of 9 children, and I had 2 parents who were both drug addicts and alcoholics. My father was in and out of jail my entire life, and my mother had people in and out of the house all of the time who were doing drugs, and she would leave us alone for months at a time to do whatever she wanted to do. And when she was home, she was extremely abusive all of the time, and my older siblings were extremely sexually abusive to the younger siblings. And for some reason, my father's mother, my grandmother, adored me from the time that I was born. And she would take me with her to spend weekends with her, and she had been asking to adopt me from my parents for a very long time. But my mother had all of us so that she would get support to then buy drugs with. So that just really wasn't what she wanted. She wanted us because she was receiving money for us. So she was not going to let my grandmother take me. And my father had recently come back from jail, and he saw the conditions we were living in, and he realized that he could save one of us. So he asked my grandmother if she was still interested in taking me in, and she of course said yes. And he convinced my mother that it was okay, and that they would get by, and that it wouldn't be a problem. And so informal custody was given to my grandmother. We went to the notary, my mom signed the paper, my grandmother signed the paper, and I was stamped, and then I was sent to live with my grandmother. And my grandmother was an amazing lady, and I'm so lucky to have had her in my life. And she taught me so many things. She taught me how to love, and she taught me how to trust, and she just really instilled in me that I could break the cycle of poverty with education, and that I should never forget where I came from, but I should never let where I came from hold me back from being who I was always supposed to be. And I lived with my grandmother until I was 16 years old. When she fell and she broke her hip, my uncle decided to put her into a nursing home. And that meant that I had to find another place to live. And I could not go and live with my biological mother because that was still not a safe place. My father was incarcerated, and I really had no other place to go. And a friend's family offered to take me in. I had known her since I was in 3rd grade, and I was like, this is going to be a sleepover every night. This is going to be great. And it didn't turn out to be as great as I thought it was. I lived with them for almost a year, and my friend had been an only child, so when I moved in with her, her whole life really changed. And she was not okay with all of the changes that were happening. Her parents were giving attention to me, and they were doing things with me, which should have happened. It was a normal thing to happen, but she didn't like it. And so she told her parents that she really didn't want me to stay there anymore, and that I was doing things to her and saying things to her. And they of course believed her, because that was their child. And so they told me I was grounded from the house for 2 weeks. So during my 2-week out of house grounding, I went to stay with a woman who had been really close friends with my grandmother throughout my childhood. And I thought that, everything was okay, and I would just go back in a couple weeks, and it would be fun. And I really didn't want to go back to that place because it wasn't a safe place, and it wasn't a good place. And they were people who ended up becoming individuals who really told me all the time that I was worthless and that I would never amount to anything and that I would never go anywhere in life and that I was going to be just like the rest of my family. And they were individuals who thought that I wasn't worth electricity, and so they made me stay in my room anytime that I was home and I wasn't allowed to use lights. And they were individuals who really treated me very, very poorly. But I had no other place to go. And I was staying with this individual during my 2-week grounding period, and I came home with her one day, and all of my belongings were in trash bags. Most of them were broken, and they were sitting outside in the rain, so they all got ruined. And then I realized that they clearly did not want me to go back to their house. And I was once again nervous because I was like, where am I going to stay? This woman who's letting me stay with her now isn't going to take me in. She's not in the school district that I'm in. I'll have to switch schools. And I don't really want to switch schools. This was my senior year at this time. And I had a wonderful guidance counselor, an amazing guidance counselor at my school who knew about my situation and was very close with me the entire time I was in high school. And he was really trying to find a way to help me. And he found out about the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act and found out that I fell under that act and I would be able to stay at my school of origin no matter where I was staying. And so that was very nice. It was a weight off of my shoulders. And then another great thing happened. This woman offered to let me stay with her. And I thought that was going to be a great experience. But she wanted official custody. So we had to go to the court, and my mother was supposed to come, and they were supposed to have this session. My mother was supposed to sign custody over, and then custody would be given to the state, and then the state would give custody to her. My mother didn't even show up because there's just no point for her to show up, so she didn't come, and so custody was automatically given to the state, and then it was given to this woman that I was staying with. And once again, I thought that this was going to be a really great situation, and I was really happy with what was going on. And I soon found out that that was not really what was going to happen. And I soon found out that she really just wanted me to be her servant in her house. And so that was how she treated me. And so I cleaned for her, and I did her laundry, and I did her kids' laundry, and she got to the point where she told me I wasn't even deserving to be called by my own name. And so she called me whatever she wanted. And at night, she would come into my room and sit at the edge of my bed, and she would sit there and tell me over and over and over again how worthless I was, and how I would never amount to anything, and how I would never be anything. And that's really hard to hear over and over and over again by people that you think are caregivers, by people you think are supposed to love you and support you and want the best for you. And whenever you hear a song and it plays over and over again, you eventually get it caught in your head. It just plays over and over again in your head, and you can't get it out. And my song in my head was that I was worthless, and that I was never going to be anything. And it played in my head over and over and over again. And when you study trauma, there's this thing called the pain paradox. And the pain paradox is very interesting because when you've experienced trauma, the best way to overcome that traumatic experience is to work with somebody and to really think about that trauma and work through that trauma together so that it becomes a memory and it becomes something that you can handle and it becomes something that you can really deal with. But the pain paradox states that trauma is sometimes so hard to deal with, and it is, it's just terrible to think about, and you don't want to deal with it. So you choose something else that really masks that. And sometimes you'll see individuals use drugs. Sometimes you'll see individuals choose bad relationships or choose alcohol. And for me, I picked a bad relationship. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I wanted love, and I wanted somebody to care for me, and I thought that this individual did. And it turned out that it wasn't that way. He only wanted one thing from me, and when I would not give that to him, he raped me. And I felt even lower in my life at that point because I thought that was someone that I cared for and that cared for me. And I felt like every individual in my life really just thought that I was worthless, and I thought that I was worthless. And for the first time in my life, I questioned what my grandma had instilled in me, which was that education was the key to breaking the cycle, and that I was capable of breaking that cycle. And once again, my guidance counselor came back into the situation, and he told me over and over again that I could, and I could, and I could. And he helped me apply for a national scholarship, the Horatio Alger scholarship, that any senior who has overcome adversity can apply for it, and that is looking for a higher education. And 47,000 children applied the year I did, and 102 of us won, and I was one of them. And I got to meet Denzel Washington. And it was a life-changing experience to be in the room with individuals who had experienced trauma all over the world, who were overcoming and making a difference. And I got to meet Denzel Washington, which was awesome. And through that, it really showed me that I really could overcome, and I made the choice to stop believing the words from individuals who did not care about me, who did not know me, who did not want to know me, and who were just there to hurt me. And I remember going home to the home that where all my mail was going, which was the woman who I had been living with, and I had applied to Slippery Rock, and she of course told me that I wasn't going to get in because I was too stupid. And she also opened all of my mail, so I got home one day and there was a letter from Slippery Rock, and she was holding it, and she goes, "I don't know how you did it, but you got in somehow." And I looked at her and I said, "I know how I did it. And it was no thanks to you and no thanks to other people, and I am going to overcome this, and I'm going to make something more of my life." So I shared the quote with you in the beginning. Pain has a way of clipping our wings so we cannot fly. My wings were clipped, and I felt like I was never going to fly. I felt like I was never going to overcome the situations and the adversities that had really been in my life my entire childhood. And I did overcome through the help of individuals who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and through the help of people who really reached out their hand when I didn't think that I deserved it and I didn't think that I needed it. And we all can make a difference. And together, we can help everyone soar. Thank you very much.